Okay, so this past summer, we actually started experimenting with group lessons. A5F1 Talk is something new that they would be offering, and I was part of the first group of teachers to be picked to do it. And it was a new experience. First, I was a little bit nervous because it was four students per one teacher, and it was 45 minutes long instead of a 25-minute lesson. And we got to practice on each other as teachers first, and then we got our first students. One of the main issues was, since it was a brand new program, there was also a lot of technical issues. So sometimes, instead of getting to teach the groups or even teach the groups of students or even watch them learn, we were having to deal with those technical issues. That's one thing I would fix if you do group lessons online. And the other thing was, sometimes students, the lessons that were used for English, some parts were too interactive. And so the interaction was good because they would interact with the computer, like they would have a question or they could move the little squares to create a sentence, and they would get to say it out loud too. And so they could look at each other in the four squares and see how each one did a variety of a sentence. But at the same time, there were some parts that were so interactive with the computer screen that it just distracted the students more than them getting to actually practice the speaking part. So the positive was that they got to play games, and we would, if it was four students in one lesson, we would divide them up by teams so they could help each other during the lessons. And sometimes I would only have like 3 students because one was absent, so then I couldn't divide them up in teams, but when they could always help each other, especially when there was pairs. But at the same time, we couldn't always do pairs if one person was absent, or even sometimes 2 people were absent, so then it would just be 2 people in the group. And the people who monitored our group lessons, well, I would monitor the group lessons, and then our group lessons are recorded by the company so the parents can watch them, as well as people who watch the teachers, how they teach, and they see what we need improvement in, and they would send us messages on how we could improve for teaching a group lesson. I think at first I was a little scared to effectively monitor the group lessons because I was scared that I wouldn't be able to hear each of them, especially if you have each of them speaking at the same time. And so a lot of times I would have to remind them like to take turns, because sometimes they would speak over one another, which I would also notice in my children's church lesson. We have little small groups, and I was one teacher. I would walk to each group, but sometimes the kids would speak over one another or not take turns, and you have to monitor and kind of show them like how they can answer, but at the same time give them a chance to do it themselves.